Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Justin Hollen podcast. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. And for those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Justin Hollen. I'm a mathematical finance master student at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. And this is a podcast where I have long-form conversations and discussions with friends, associates, colleagues, professionals, academics, and a range of topics and the conversations that may bring interest to you and the rest of the internet. And before we get started, I'd just like to say, if you'd like to support the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you guys like the video, comment down below and subscribe, and maybe share this with a family member or a friend or anything like that. It really helps what I'm trying to do here and supports the channel as well. If you guys know of anybody that you think would be an interesting guest on the podcast, or if you'd like to be a guest, please DM me on Instagram or leave a comment down in the comment section below. And for today, I have my good friend and soon-to-be coworker, Shreyas Bhasin, on the podcast, who is a economics and computer science major at the University of Wake Forest. Today, we talked about conversations about computer science, economics, and many other topics, like including artificial intelligence. I really enjoyed this conversation that we had today, and I hope you guys all enjoy it too. Cool. All right. So, first thing, I don't know. How you been?
I'm good, dude.
How's school? All right, so the one question I wanted to ask you, like, I guess starting off is, how is Wake Forest? Also bring the mic pretty close. Like, you should
close?
talk
Into like the side of it, like this?
Yeah, the side of it.
Gotcha. Testing, good.
Yeah, so
Good.
how is Wake Forest? How do you think? Because, like, everybody goes to a different school, I feel like, and they don't know how, like, everybody else's schools are doing. So how do you rate Wake Forest as whole as a university?
I mean, I love it. It's the spot. I knew I wanted to get. It was one of those. It was the classic story, like, go on campus, fall in love with it, when you're visiting and everything like that.
Yeah, okay.
That's good. But like campus life is good. I mean, it's definitely more on like the South. Like more people know it here, but like everybody in Charlotte knows Wake Forest. Everybody like Atlanta in the South, like everybody knows it. So like that's helpful in terms of that. It's a good vibe, dude. I mean. It's big in like the Greek life and stuff like that. I was a little worried going in actually, like because I kind of didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I made a few friends who go, and everybody's like really chill about like you coming into like parties or doing stuff like that. So like socially, like it's perfectly fine. But I mean, academically, it's great. I mean, the business school and the medical school are fantastic there, and you have a lot of opportunities to go in many different directions when you're there. They make you do the whole liberal arts vibe, right? Like they make you go and they make you do a whole bunch of classes in different areas and stuff like that. They're very adamant about it too. So, I was originally going in to be like computer science and environmental science, and like I eventually got into comp sci and then economics and stuff like that. But it's definitely big on the business side. That might be just my social scene or like kind of my circle, but like the business school is very big there, and a lot of my friends are in it. Most people are like, it's not the question of what major are you, it's like what major within the business school are you. So that's definitely a lot of the vibe sometimes. But other than that, I mean, I absolutely love it. It's a great vibe. It's small enough, to where I can like know a certain amount of people and get kind of within a solid niche, but not big enough to where it's like overwhelming or anything like that. So
okay.
Yeah.
So you're not in Greek life or anything like that?
I'm not. Like I hang out with some guys who are. I just like it's a very organized and structured thing, and I didn't kind of want to be like forced any specific way when I went in there. And I had no issues. I was like low key worried about that coming in, but I had no issues once I did. Like a whole bunch of my friends are like not in Greek life. Some of them are, and it's never like clashing or anything like that. Everybody's pretty chill about it. I was worried it was gonna be like you ever see it in the movies? It's like all super like everybody's like very sectional and everything like that. It's like. Yeah, it's
like High School
plans.
Musical.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. So, what's your opinion on the professors?
Professors are solid.
I was gonna say because I have at UNCC, it's a very hit or miss. Like I either have like a great professor.
No, I mean a professor in any case like makes or break a class for you. I feel like I took one class in. It was like an English class. It was like for my English requirement or something like that. And I had to take what. So I was like, okay, I pretty much just signed up for a random one. I had this like 70-year-old woman on her last year of teaching. And it was like, she was like, I'm just going to ignore what the syllabus should be. And I'm going to teach you guys about 1700s and 1800s, like old Victorian, like, feministic, like empowerment,
What was
stuff
the
like
class
that.
called?
It was called Studies in British Literature.
Okay.
And I was like, what the heck is this class? Like coming in, I was like, okay, let's just see how it goes. Ended up being like literally my favorite class at Wake Forest.
Really?
This woman she was just very passionate about it. Like,
Okay.
I feel like any professor who's passionate about it and can communicate that, like it's a done deal. Like, so that, I mean, the professors, I mean, it's the same thing at Wake, right? They're hit or miss. I've had like some professors where I've been, I've needed to only read the textbook like by myself because they just don't know how to teach. And, I have some professors who are like absolutely fantastic and to the moon, right? So it's just how it goes sometimes.
Okay.
Especially within, like, I'll be fully transparent. The comp sci department at Wake Forest and it is not like relatively speaking to other like more technical schools is not like crazy, over the top or anything like that. So more so hit or miss there, but again, right, it just depends on the passion of the professor. I'm in one class right now that's definitely like the hardest comp sci class ever. It's about like optimizing algorithms to be as efficient as possible in terms of like the amount of space they take up in memory and then as well as like how much time they take to complete it. Like it doesn't seem like much, but it's so unbelievably technical and so like it's very intricate, and he's got like, this guy's very, very knowledgeable on the topic, and I literally talked to him for hours about like computational theory and stuff. Like it's awesome. So like it's just about how well they can communicate, their passion for something. Like
I was gonna say,
I feel like that's what matters.
That's what stands out to you when you see a professor, like their passion, everything like that. What do you think? Is there anything like, because I think eventually I kind of want to go the professor route. I think so. I'm always like looking to get people's perspectives, like on what their professor did differently, or like what great ones do differently. So what do you, besides that, like the passionate, what do you think? Like what techniques do you think that they?
I think there are a lot of people who focus too much on trying to get everybody.
No, you're good.
I have a million alarms. I'm looking. Give me a second.
No, you're good.
Cancel them all real quick. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I have, like, my perspective is there are some professors who like want everybody to love their subject as much as they do, and realistically I feel like that's just not possible. You're gonna have a bunch of duds in the class who are just taking it for requirement, and you got to realize that. So if you like I feel like the professors that are successful are the ones who, again, like are passionate about what they like and can communicate that passion effectively, and if they hone in on like the students who will be receptive to their passion, right? I feel like those are the professors that are the best. My grandfather, he was in India's foreign service for like 30 years. And then after that, he went the professor route. He came to the U.S. and he taught at Stony Brook University in New York.
What did he teach?
He taught international affairs and stuff like that. Okay. And he was great. He was an expert on like China and everything like that. They were stationed there and like in Hong Kong for a bunch. They were also stationed in like South Africa and like Zimbabwe and like DC. So he had he did a whole bunch of stuff, and he's a very successful career, but he knew literally everything about international affairs. And so he was unbelievably passionate about it. He was always talking to like me and my sister about like, stuff going on in China, and we're like sitting there like 5 years old, like, okay, thanks. But no, he's just, he loved it so much. And he said his most effective and probably favorite part of experience, his most effective attribute was honing in on those students who like matched his level of passion for foreign affairs and things on the international scale and from the economic side of things and all that. So he literally says he poured his heart into those students, and he gave them every opportunity. I met some that he passed away recently, unfortunately, but I met some of his students at the funeral, and it was wonderful to see that. So it's really, I think it's really just about passion at that point on the professor side of things. You just gotta love it.
Oh, that's crazy. He had students at his funeral. That was surreal. That was surreal. It was like, because I'd always seen him as this like big lovable grandfather and everything like that, and then he all these students come in, and like just to see that other people had been graced with his presence in that manner, it was amazing to see. I never got to see like the work side of him, right? So it was very interesting to see like how even at work he was able to affect people like that. Yeah, I feel like that's like most of my family. Like I would never know like their work side. Like it's so Interesting.
It's
Like
just weird like that.
you don't. Yeah, you won't know too. You were talking about the requirements and stuff, like how you have to have like it's just a required class. How do you think the curriculum is at Wake Forest?
I think it's structured right. They're very specific about wanting they call the divisional requirement and that liberal arts experience. They're very specific about wanting that, and I think that's good for people who come in and don't know what they want to do, which was me. So or like have some idea but want to still like explore around. And there's a lot of malleability with it, right? Like even if you come in knowing exactly what you want to do, like I had some friends who like knew they wanted to do finance, like knew they wanted to go straight into that world. There's like a pre-Wall Street track is what they call it, and like they set you up like with connections and stuff like that. So I think the liberal arts approach is the best. It gives you either like the ability to go straight into something or to sample around and learn from whatever you want to learn from. So I like the curriculum. I like how it's designed, and I think it's a good setup. But
okay, yeah, because I was gonna say you said you didn't know. When did you figure out you wanted to be
I like comp sci. I kind of knew coming in. I loved like coding and stuff like that when I was in high school, and I took a couple classes there. I loved that. I knew I wanted to bring some level of like business into things. So I originally went to check if I could do a business degree and a computer science degree, but because the business school degrees they're a little bit more on the hefty side. So everybody was like all of my advisors were like, yeah, you actually can't do computer science and business double major. And I wanted more. I felt like for undergrad, you need a little bit more of like a specific trade, right? Like you need to be able to do something that's concrete, that's like transferable, like in any like recessionary environment or anything like that. You can apply it anywhere. You can apply yourself anywhere. So I was like, okay, I want the comp sci part of things, because undergrad business was like, oh, okay, I'll definitely do grad school business if I like it. And I think that's a little bit more strong. So I was originally like, oh, I can't do the business, but I need the comp sci. Let me just do economics, which I originally thought was going to be like, kind of like a, pass it off, like, oh, it is what it is. Like I'm not going to need to work hard in it or anything like that. Yeah. I thought it was going to be very nonchalant. And now like all my econ classes are like my favorite thing. I'm doing an economics thesis and everything. Like I love it. I love that vibe. But
okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, how's the curriculum at UNCC?
I think it's good. I think you were talking about like the liberal studies or like a lot of the general requirements and things like that.
Right.
I definitely think those are more to get students to at least come to college right away, and then they can take those classes for like their first year, 2 years. Right. I think that is kind of, they should take some of that, could probably do without, I think, because I don't think I needed a geology class and things like that. Like I understand like it's a broad range, but if it's not very applicable, especially if the professors like take at-home test, like open book, open note. It's just like he knows like no one's paying attention in the class and things like that.
They gotta be realistic for that. Well, let me ask you this: do you think what do you think about people who are like, I know who come out of say high school and say, I know exactly what I want to do with my life, and like I'm fully set. I have a 10-year plan. I don't need to like take it. Like what do you think about people like that?
I mean, I was like that. I was like, I want to go into the military. I'm going to be in the military for 20 years. Yeah. And so I was sure for that. Right. So like, I personally can't believe that it's still like a thing that people are 18 picking their career for the rest of their life. Yeah. Like if I there's no way I would have been able to choose a career. Like I couldn't have told you. The only thing I could tell you that colleges had were engineering. That was the only degree I could tell you. Engineering and like business. That was it. I didn't know that like there was other degrees. Right. I didn't know there was degrees within business. Right. Or like engineering and things like that. Yeah. So had no clue about it. And so I definitely think me personally, I think people should take a leap year or like do something else if they're not sure. But if they are sure, if they're like, like their family was in finance and then they're going to be in finance, like sure, go for it. But
if you could have taken a leap year, what would you have done?
That's the thing. I don't know what I would have. I think I would have at the time when I was 18. I think I just would have worked.
Really?
I think so. But I also had zero. Like I didn't want to work. Like I didn't want to be the people that stays in my town. So I might have left. Honestly, if I didn't go into the military. Right. But I think that's what I always wonder. Like if I didn't. Like if they let's say like for some reason I had like some medical history or something, like they wouldn't let me in the military. No clue. Really? What I would have did. No clue at all. But yeah, like I didn't know I wanted to do like finance till I was 20, maybe 19, 20, and I started getting into like financial trouble. Yeah, and I was like, you know what? I was like, no, maybe I should like start going into finance.
Some financial literacy here.
Yeah, I went down which is so crazy because like the first thing I started doing was like YouTube rabbit holes, like personal finance, and then from personal finance, you start getting. I feel like it's a cycle. Like you get into side hustles, and then I started learning about day trading. And I was like, oh, I can definitely do day trading and swing trading and things like that. And then you start realizing like, no, that's not a thing for everybody. Yeah, so. Now I was like, okay, let me start like looking actually in the companies, and then I'll just like invest like Warren Buffett does. Yeah. But now as I'm graduating, I'm starting to learn that technical analysis and like day trading and like that stuff is actually works. And so I'm like, I thought the whole time like that was just like there's whole like the degree I'm getting, like mathematical finance, is a lot of like quantitative stuff. Which is a lot of like technical trading, which is what you're taught does not work. Right. But as I'm getting to the end of my like degree, I'm like learning it's like actually a thing that people do and get paid a lot of money for.
It's I think the problem is if you go into like day trading like not having that background, you're just gonna get squashed by the people who like do have like the quant finance background. And then once you get there, then it's like it's more of a piece of cake. But
yeah, I think it's like the fact that YouTube and TikTok can easily pick up and be like, look at this like candle signal, and be like, this is when you buy here. Oh, look, it looks like a horseshoe, and then the horseshoe. Oh, we call it a dead rabbit, and it's a dead rabbit because it does this, and this is when you sell, it's when you buy. It's like
I think I can trace every fantastic and terrible decision I've ever had in my life back to a YouTube spiral. Just like going down the rabbit hole, and either something really good or really bad is going to come out of it.
Yeah, that's
like the foundation for our generation.
Yeah, it is. But YouTube is now like more official. Like if you tell somebody, "Hey, I saw this on TikTok," they'll be like, most people will be like, But if you say like, "I saw this on YouTube," they'll be like, "Okay, that's more." That's more
crazy.
Professional.
That's crazy how that happens.
But like 10 years ago,
they'd be like, I read a newspaper and this happened. Now it's just like I watched a YouTube video.
Yeah, 10 years ago, if you said I watched a YouTube video on how to do something, they'd be like, sounds like a Ponzi scheme. Yeah. So in terms of higher education, like you're saying, like you think a business degree like in the master's level is more beneficial, or what are you thinking about like? Do you plan on getting a master's in the future or anything like that?
Yeah, I think the plan, I think it's just an extra way to like solidify or maybe like legitimize your education in the eyes of employers. I think like for you and me, if we want to go into the field of finance, right? Obviously undergrad is of the utmost importance. Then you run, 2-3 years of experience and then go back to school if that's what you want to do. Yeah. And I think for me, the option, the way I wanted to set it up was I could go either get like a master's in like information science or computer science, and I could also go and get like an MBA or something like that. And I think for like there could be a possibility where where I just don't go to like some higher education after undergrad, and like maybe I just don't. I just like like if work goes well either like USA or like if I go somewhere else, right? Like then it's a possibility, but I just feel like to take that next step, just from what I've talked to people about and from what I hear, to take that next step beyond, kind of like the entry level, arena of positions and stuff like that, like just, a graduate degree, like it just makes a little bit more sense and it projects you a little bit further. Yeah.
You have an idea of which degree you'd want to get, like MBA or
more so MBA right now.
More so MBA.
Definitely something with like a component to like technical, something technical or like data analytics or something like that. I just think, I've always loved being able to kind of, not necessarily compartmentalize only in finance or in technology, like just bringing them together. I feel like that's been my greatest attribute and my like greatest passion within like, the work that I've done, in the last couple of years through internships and stuff like that. It's just been fun. I like that vibe.
Yeah, it is like shifting towards computer science. Like everybody in finance does like have experience with that, which is interesting. Like I'm going to be learning Python, R, which I've heard is outdated. I don't know if R is outdated.
R is not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's outdated. It's more on the statistical analysis side of things, right? Like, so your stats is going to be built on like classes with R and stuff like that. That was crazy. I remember learning, like taking stats in high school, and it was all like all of the, you could learn about the different tests and stuff like that. And then when I got to college, it was literally just use R, figure out how to do your, stuff from there. And like, that's everything. And it's like, wow, that's It's just crazy to see, like, because that was like 2-3 years of like difference that I saw, and it's already like more on the technical side. I mean, yeah, you're right. Tech's where it's at. So, like the same way everybody should have financial literacy. I feel like we'll get to a point where people should have computational literacy, I guess.
Yeah,
something like that.
I was gonna say, yeah, a lot of people on Wall Street and like a lot of people like the funds are hiring, like hedge funds and things are hiring people that are like quants and can handle all of the
right.
computer side of things. So it's definitely something.
Yeah,
that's why I'm going more towards. Like I'm trying to learn that, which I think like now I definitely think finance programs should implement some type of coding or computer science in their degrees. Like definitely learning one language. Like the CFA now makes you learn Python. Yeah, at least for level 1. I don't know about level 2 and 3, but yeah. So. It's definitely something I think they should implement starting in college. And I think, like, my cousin he's a freshman at West Virginia, Virginia Tech, one of the two.
Right.
And he's taking a financial engineering. That's his degree, financial engineering. So it's like computer science and finance.
That sounds awesome.
Like put together,
That's
so
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Does UNCC, do they require any, like through the I don't know if it's like a pre-business track or anything, do they implement any like technical stuff into like the curriculum, or like are there any classes in which you use a lot of like statistical software or anything?
You're talking about like undergraduate?
Yeah, undergraduate.
Kind of, but it's more of like on the economic side. Okay. Like have you taken the econometrics class?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that class killed me.
Data?
Yeah, Stata used a bunch. R Studio, stuff like that, you use a lot. But
we didn't really use R. I think our professor was kind of dropping pack. Yeah. But I think we had class canceled probably like 4 or 5 times. Oh, dude. I think So mainly Stata and nothing else really that's required. Like I've started using SAS this semester, but that's like an elective that not everybody's gonna take, especially with the professor who has like one of the hardest classes on campus. Yeah. So
it's a tough ordeal.
That'll deter people. Yeah, the rate my professor is brutal. Yeah, he's like great professor, but like would never take it again. Really, that's what it is. Yeah,
dude, that's gotta suck if you're a professor. I'd hate to be stuck with like a class that just everybody hates, like econometrics. I just like it'd be the worst thing in the world.
Really?
Yeah. No, yeah. I'd take on the challenge, but imagine like showing up every day with like just students like just coming in like, oh my god, this is the worst part of my week.
Yeah, they're stressing out for the test. Yeah, though. But the thing is like some of my professors like it'll be super complicated topics and they understand it, and I feel like they think we understand it. I feel like that's the issue.
So did you say that I started tutoring. I got a job in the student athlete services department at Wake Forest. So like I'm tutoring most of our student athletes and stuff like that, which is awesome. And I'm doing econ and comp sci, classes that they're having trouble with. I come in and help. It's crazy. Like I understand the teacher's perspective. Like when you understand something, like when you finally understand something, it takes like after that time, especially after you teach it back to somebody, like you just have it in your mind. Yeah. But when you're a student and I mean, we've all had that class, right? Where the professor, like, obviously, like, they've spent their life doing something and, like, it just makes sense to them. Yeah. But, like, to us, it's just, like, what, like, how does that translate in your head? Like, I actually see the teacher's perspective now. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's a very, very tough hill to climb to, like, be able to get yourself out of this mindset of, if it makes sense to me, it makes sense to everybody else. That's, like, not, like, you can't just explain things like that. Like, you have to, like, show, you have to use the examples. Like, it's crazy. It's a lot more of a hill than most people think. Not that I'm like an expert in teaching or anything, but like I started to see it. I was like, oh man, like even like teaching like basic supply and demand like curves and like how they shift and everything like that. I was like, oh, this just like comes natural to me because I've been doing it for like 3 years. It's my major and everything like that. Like, but to other people, like it's a complex topic. So it was very interesting to see.
Yeah, I think some that's what I've had experience with, like some professors. I'm like the type where I'll read the textbook though. Like I don't really rely on professors that much. So like I'll understand the information, and then people like will go to class and like I don't know if that's like at Wake Forest like how the expectation is, but a lot of at UNCC is the professor will probably teach you most of it, and then you can like if you want like a professor will teach you enough to get like an 80.
Right.
And then the rest is like, if you want to get like a 90 or above on tests, then you have to go and like actually start looking into things. Is that how it works at Wake Forest, or do you think it's more of a
like fairly? Yeah, I'd say that's about most of the time. Is it more of a, is that like consistently across the board at UNCC, or is it like some classes like heavily rely on one textbook or something like that, and others are like, you can buy this textbook if you want, it's not really going to help you type of thing? Because that's what I usually see a lot. I see one or the other.
Yeah, a lot of it is the optional textbook thing,
right.
but there's been a few classes, like I've had one, the hardest class I've ever taken was the professor wrote the textbook.
Oh,
so
dude.
that was,
dude, those professors are always so full of them.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, we didn't have to buy it or anything.
Okay.
That was fine. It was online. It was free, but like he knew everything in that book.
Yeah. And
like the tests were like, this was my first like higher level econ class. So like I was learning about like all the types of like how monopoly works and like the supply demand curves and all that stuff. Like you touch on a little bit in micro, but I was like learning all this, and at the same time, like everybody in my class is like seniors about to graduate.
Right.
And the tests were like open book, or not open book. They were free response.
Right.
Like it was just like, explain this, and it'd be like 6 steps, and like, oh my god. And then, like each week he'd be like, you're gonna read like 2 chapters out of my textbook, and like the quizzes were so specific. Like we'd have a weekly quiz, and it'd be like, what is this like small little detail that was on page 6? And I'm like, oh my god. Yeah, no. So, but yeah, for the most part, when it's not those classes, it is more of like the professor's going to teach everything, and you probably get a C at the lowest.
Well, you said you're more of a textbook kind of person, like learn from the textbook kind of person. That's
like,
easier for you?
I think I was asked this the other day by my girlfriend, like if I was a professor and I could have like, if I told you to give you like a 7-day schedule, like what?
Right.
Like I would say, like if you were like, let's say on this day you're gonna have like a quiz, like on that first day I would tell students like you should just read the vocab words, and then second day, I think professors should have an audiobook for their textbooks. I think that would help so much, because if I listen to the audiobook, maybe I'm not picking up on it, but like I'm listening to it while I'm driving or like just doing random chores.
Right.
My brain's picking up on certain words or like key terms and things like that. And then when you go back and you look at the vocab words and you like read the actual textbook again with the audiobook, I think it helps so much better.
Right.
And like you're like already understanding it, because you're like, I've heard this before. I just didn't really understand the concept, but now you're like picking up on everything. So I think doing like that type of setup where like audiobook first and then going, I think also this is a little overkill, but audiobook while also reading, and then reading the book by itself.
Interesting.
To like fully understand the concepts. That's kind of like the path I would want to go. Like that's what I do for like books that I have that aren't necessarily textbooks, but I think all professors should have that type of teaching perspective, or at least give students that opportunity, because I can learn so much more from that than from being in the classroom.
Do you think that's you personally on like just being more of a audio person, like learning that way, or do you think like across the board that should apply in any case?
Well, I think I'm not an audio. I think I'm more of a visual person. Yeah,
really.
Yeah, which is the thing. Like that's why I think like I will learn a lot more from like visually seeing. Right. Yeah. But I think the audio like already like sets it off like a little bit in advance. So that's something I think like,
dude, I gotta try this then.
Yeah, it's one of my like, because I wish like more things had it like that, where it'd be like the audio, like, because audiobooks are still kind of new. Right. But if I could listen to something and then like listen and read it at the same time, and then read it by itself. Right. And that's when when I'm reading it by itself, I'm like, okay, I already like understand all of this.
Do you listen to a lot of like podcasts or like audiobooks like in the car or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm like consistent? I think there's probably only a small amount of the day when I'm not getting filled with information, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm also like,
that's got to be an amazing thing.
like I'm constantly like, right now I'm watching MIT, like for fun, an MIT course on like their mathematical finance. Right. So like just to get ahead for next semester and things like that.
How much does that help in terms of your just like, does it give you like an advanced topic? Do you rabbit hole at that point, or does it give you like a general basis for everything across?
I think right now I'm just trying to get as broad as I can, just because like I have a long time, and so I can't really I can get deep into everything else eventually, but I think getting the broad understanding, especially when I have like the CFA test coming up, I have to understand all the concepts, and then if I have time to deep dive, I'll deep dive. Which comes later on in the other tests. But
I remember you and I talking about the CPA and like the CFA exams. Is it more of a, you got to kind of pick and choose your battles and like hone in on those sorts of things, or is it like, again, across the board, you like try to get a general understanding of everything and then hope for the best?
I think right now I'm still in the general understanding phase. Like I'm still 90 days out to the test, so I'm in the general phase. And like once it gets closer though, that's when I'll start like picking out formulas, or like they have it split by like there's 10 sections, but each one's like one section is weighted like 15%, one's weighted like 7. So I'll like choose the ones that are weighted the most. Right, that's when I'll focus on for like formulas and things like that. Yeah. But just trying to get the main general understanding. Hopefully that works, especially throwing it in ChatGPT and asking it to summarize it and like explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Is so much.
It works.
So useful. Yeah,
it works. It's crazy about that. This is the weirdest thing actually for me, ChatGPT wise. I had a comp sci professor saying use ChatGPT as much as possible. This is the same guy in the like computational theory class. And like first day he was like, look, use ChatGPT. First things first, it's not going to help you guys because like what we're learning is just like crazy. If you asked it to explain concepts like that, like a 5-year-old, the computer will crash. He literally said that. I was like, damn it. But like, I just think it's interesting. Like he's just that thought process of, use ChatGPT, accept it as a tool. Like, no, like don't be afraid of it. Like that type of thing. Like I feel like all other professors are like, stay away from it. But like this guy, I just thought that was interesting.
I wish, I think there's a lot of issues with like, they didn't get it when they were students, so they don't want us to get it when we were students. Right. But it's also like some of the professors probably had the internet, and then their professors probably didn't have the internet. So it's like one of those, like you can't ban the internet, or it's like things like that. I think there's a lot of issues with I think some professors like, what's the word, gatekeeping like information and things like that. Like it took me years to figure out this one concept. Like it should take you years to figure out this one concept. It's like, no, I could throw it in ChatGPT and it like explains it to me in like 5 minutes. I understand it probably just as much as you do. And it's like, I think a lot of professors have an issue with that. And they're also, I think another thing is laziness. Yeah. Because like, professors will use the same test every year.
Yeah, it's very hypocritical sometimes, right?
Yeah,
they'll do their own thing. They'll like record videos and say, watch the video, and then like they're done, and that's their lecture. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. What do you think about that thought process? Like, where eventually you'll understand the higher level concept and you'll use it there, but they want you to understand it at a lower level and like understand how you arrived to that. To the eventual, outcome of like a theory or something like that. And you have to do the work to understand it. Yeah. And you have to struggle to understand it and everything. And then you can apply it. Like, do you think it's beneficial to learn that? Or is it kind of a moot point, like when it comes to just applying it in today's world and knowing how to apply it versus like understanding how it works in the back end?
It should not take us as long as they did. I think their job, like whoever's teaching you's job is to like making sure you can figure it out in like half the time. Right. So like I think going through it, obviously, like just not being given like just the answer, like this is how it works, but like definitely going through a little bit of the grind, but it should not take anywhere near as long. Like you should be able to get assistance. And I think that's what I always I'm curious about. I'm not sure because we're not in elementary school and like like those type of grades anymore. So like, are they progressing? Like, are kindergartners getting smarter, or are kindergartners learning the same thing that we learned in kindergarten? I always wonder about that. Like, we should slowly be progressing. Like, they should be implementing like a little small, like maybe they didn't learn, like they'll learn like addition this year, or like throw that in there, or like things like that.
Do you think it's more of a like, learning certain topics at a younger and younger age, or like the way you learn or the type of learning you do, like changes, or like what subjects you focus on changes and stuff like that? Like, do you think it's because eventually like my thought process is if you start like say like back in 1950s people are learning addition in 5th grade and like slowly over time we start to learn addition in like kindergarten. Like I feel like it can only go up to a certain point where you're learning like it at a young enough age. Like, so do you think
that's true,
right? Like at what point do you think it's more of a like, do you think it's more of a, like, like, instead of learning, trying to figure out how to put this in, like, a practical context, like, I feel like, do you think kids in, those younger years are starting to use calculators earlier or something like that? Like, instead of learning it at, like, learning to use a calculator, like, 3rd grade or whatever, like, that's the kind of thing that changes. Or maybe they focus on, like, more computer science-related topics at that young age. Like, do you think it's more of you're learning earlier, or the curriculum itself is just changing to compete with the world, like, to be competent in today's world?
Yeah, I think, Like, you're asking which one do I think should happen, or I think
both.
both.
Which should happen, and what do you think is happening?
I definitely think they're just trying to like. I don't think the curriculum is changing. I think maybe they're just like hopefully slightly shifting things up. Like like how you said we were learning math in fifth grade back in the 50s and now. But I definitely think that there's more. It should be like a trial and error. Like you can teach a kid this and you can slightly move things up. Like you can things you learn in 12th grade you can learn in 11th grade and like slowly progress. Like I feel like eventually we'll keep progressing like that because it'll evolve and like your kids will have. I'm not sure if like I don't know how quick like evolution happens, but like I'm sure your kids will probably be able to understand something a little bit better than you did if you already like developed that when you were very young. And then they will develop to their kids, and it's like eventually I think there'll be a point where like you're in 5th grade and you're learning things that 12th graders our age learn. So do you ever remember your parents like saying like you're doing something and like whatever grade you are and your parents are like, wow, I didn't learn that till like I was in college or something like that. They ever had that? Like my dad or my mom used to do that a lot. Like when I was taking my stats class in high school, she's like, wow, I think she went to grad school at UPenn or something. Like she's like, wow, like I learned that in grad school. Like that's crazy. So it's just like interesting to hear. Like I guess it is more of a you just learn things earlier and as things progress. So which is a good thing, I think. I'd hope so. I dude, imagine like this concept of like moving things earlier up like takes off or something. Like kids in the future are gonna watch this and be like, God damn these guys, I'm gonna kill these guys for like making me learn harder stuff. But listen, if you could get your college degree by 18, that'd be nice. That would be crazy. I feel like we're slowly. I mean, there's already people doing that. Like there's people going to Harvard at like 15 and stuff like that. But I think we're slowly shifting that way, but I also feel like we're slowly going the opposite way. Maybe. Like people are getting not too much education, I would say, but like I feel like the age you are, people are going into the workforces. Like it's slowly moving back, and like we're saying, like people aren't moving out of their house, which might be like other factors. I don't know. It might not just be like maturity and like thinking that you're ready. But I do know this, especially with like people like I've known. Like it kind of does shift back. Like it feels like we're shifting back. From being ready to be our own person versus like how our parents were. Right. So it's interesting. I'm taking this class called The Future of Work. It's all about like labor markets and like what things are going to look like in the future. Like the big thing there is like there's a huge decline. I think it's male workforce participation and stuff like that. And a lot of it has to do with like working from home, like less jobs and opportunities available in that space. Like obviously COVID like threw everybody off by like a mile and stuff like that. So it's probably that's one of the biggest major like components of like just people kind of laying back on the work and stuff like that. But it's crazy. There are some people who really like that space. I feel like it's quite polarizing. Like there's some people who love the education space, want to stay in it forever. Obviously, like people who like doing the professors and the research track, like that's definitely like their thing and they want to be there. And then you have like some people like my valedictorian in my high school. He graduated, like we all thought he was going to go to MIT or something like that. He didn't end up going. He didn't get in, which I thought was just like crazy. I was like, if this guy didn't get in, like who's getting in MIT? I was like, bruh. But he went to Georgia Tech, and I was like, okay, so like what was your thought process on that? I linked up with him a few years later. He was like, Georgia Tech made like they had the option to where I could like take a class by, and I could pass the class by taking the midterm or the final at the end of the year without having to like attend any of the lectures and stuff like that, and I could get credit for the course. So I was like, oh, okay. So he was like, I was like, how did that work? He's like, I finished in 2 years. I was like, at Georgia Tech, you finished in 2 years. I mean, like for him it checks out, but still it was just like crazy to think about. He was like, yeah, I'm just like. And then he literally like he'd up and I thought he was gonna go work for like SpaceX or something like that. He could literally do whatever he wants. He moves to Japan and just chills there for like 2 years. Just like has the time of his life. Like he's out like partying and stuff like that. This was the craziest conversation I ever had because this guy, my valedictorian, the guy who's like literally like killing himself at every single point of the day to try and get ready for a test that was like 2 months out. He was like sitting there telling me to like live my life and like enjoy things and take time, and that was just a crazy like turnaround like concept to me. So what's he doing now? Do you know? I don't know. I think he's still in Japan. I linked up with him when I studied abroad there,
It was a year ago now. So I think he's doing that for 2 years. He went there like he might have gone there 2 years ago. I don't know. I'll have to check in on him. That's crazy. But it was crazy, right?
But you're not getting like it's not a sense of burnout that you're getting from him. Like, do you think it's like he's done, like he's fried?
It's not burnout. It's certainly not burnout. Like I was talking to him still, and he was like, yeah, no, like after this, I'm gonna like start my own company in like the biomedical or biotech space. And I was like, yep, okay, there's the guy I know. Here's the valedictorian I know.
He's just chilling. He's taking a little hiatus.
But
before.
Like just even that hiatus, like to hear him say like stop and smell the roses type of thing. It was just it's crazy to hear. So definitely gave me a bit of perspective on things. I was like, huh.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he probably didn't get the chance to at all.
Well, I mean, he definitely didn't. He was like, that guy was constantly working. He was a funny, he was a really great guy. Everybody wanted to, like, hang out with him. He was like, yeah, no, I got to grind. So, I mean, he was doing crazy things.
Which is crazy that he didn't even get into MIT. Which is like, you can do everything in your, like, ability, and you still won't get into the school.
It literally, like, my chest tightened when I heard that he didn't get into MIT. I literally was sitting there like, if this guy didn't get in,
like who are the people? Who are the people getting in?
What are you doing? Like, are you like? Do you have to like own a company and be like a millionaire like to like get into MIT? Like that seems like the standard. Like, jeez.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. I think the master's programs are a lot more easier to get in for sure. I think, but it is like this. I would say so. I don't know. Just because the tuition is so much more. Yeah. That's probably a big barrier to entry for a lot of people.
That's probably true.
And there are probably a lot of people that, I'm not sure. Like, I don't really know people that are at those schools, but, like, they probably did all of that. And those are the type that are, like, at that end of the 4 year, once they get their degree, they're like, okay, I'm done with learning forever.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, I don't know.
Well, I also think it's, like, I think when it comes to undergrad, there's definitely this mindset of it's not necessarily important where you go. It's more important what you do when you're there. And then like the internships that you have, especially in the business world, like the internships you have, and then what you do in those like couple years when you get out of undergrad or whatever. I think when it comes to grad school, what I've heard is there's a little bit more emphasis on where you went. Like you want to be able to say, oh, I went to, Harvard Business or Harvard Law, like that. Obviously, it's Harvard, but like still, like that has like it has huge implications based on where you go and where you complete your grad school. So
I still think that's such a interesting thing that like, I mean, I'm sure the professors are much better, and I'm sure like maybe their curriculum is a lot different, but like how much
better can it actually be?
How much different? Yeah, that's what I always wonder about. Like how much greater can these professors be than like the ones that are just working at public universities?
Yeah.
And like the name thing is so interesting and weird.
Did you go to public really quickly? Did you go to public school or private school when you grew up?
Public.
Okay. Yeah. So I went private. I was private school except for like 1 year in like first grade, I think it was. But like I always wondered that too. Like just like thinking about is this education like really like once I finally like understood like tuition is like way freaking higher. Like how does it translate? Like, does it make a difference or not? Like,
yeah, I don't know. Because especially like when I was in school, if I was at a private school, I would not be any different. I don't think.
Yeah.
Like I think I would have been the same kid. Yeah. I don't think I would have been like, oh, I'm gonna focus more. Like I'm gonna study. Like I'm actually gonna learn some science or biology or things like that. I don't know how much, but also like for like colleges and universities and things like that private degree, like like when you go to private universities, that name.
Yeah.
That is still like a weird concept. It's just like I don't know how I feel about it. Like I think like it should not be as much weight as it is, but I mean that's kind of how it works.
It's the reality of the world. I'm gonna be very honest. Having my degree from Wake Forest, before I did my internship at USA, I worked at a private equity firm, and like some of the partners there and a lot of the directors and managing directors and stuff like that were from Wake Forest. I'm gonna be very honest. I think that had the fact that I went there had a lot of play in my ability to work there, my acceptance there, and even for the internship. So it was crazy. I think it does matter. It's a crazy thing, but you're right. It does matter.
I think so. And like I think this is why I have like a crazy goal one day is to help. Like I want to be a professor at I think UNCC. Like I think I want to get all my degrees there and become a professor there, just to say like you can do it at this public university.
Right.
And you can do like you can get all your degrees at the same school.
Right.
And you can still be just as successful. Yeah. I think that's like what my goal is. Just to try to. I would like eventually to be able to have people look at UNCC like how they look at Duke. Right. Or Chapel Hill or things like that. Right. So that's what my goal is eventually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So I have like a crazy plan. Hopefully it works out to get my PhD and things like that, and then help the business school.
Do you think it's more of a you're gonna go like, because a lot of the professor routes are like, again, you stay at the school, you do research, you do this, you do that to the other. Do you think it's gonna be that, or do you think you're gonna drop out into the workforce, get some like, I don't want to say like practical experience or anything like that, but like, be in the workforce, go corporate, things like that, get that experience there, and then come back? Is it like there's two equal possibility for each path, or like?
I think I'd rather do clinical, like be a clinical professor, which my one professor told me is basically, if you're a clinical professor, you're just a professor that actually works.
Interesting.
So, like if you like, he works at Bank of America, but he's a professor part-time. Okay. Like doing that. Yeah. Doing that is definitely something I'd want to do for sure.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I have a software engineering professor right now. He's an adjunct professor, so he works. He works most of the time, and then he like pops in for class a few days a week. I feel like those guys. This guy, I was a little thrown off because I thought the software engineering class was going to teach me more about actual like coding in a practical environment. It turns out he's like, he wants to talk about the software development, life cycle and like how to work in a team in a computer science based environment. So I was a little thrown off by that, and I was a little off put by it. I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like those professors are like the coolest people who just like show up and like, yeah, I do this, I do that. I know there's a lot of Wake Forest professors. A lot of students talk about them who like show up in like, Ferraris or Lamborghinis and like have like crazy watch on. And they're like secret to making just make money and like just like hearing some of this stuff is like crazy. But yeah, they're always the coolest. They're the fan favorites.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're getting double income, because you're gonna be getting that professor income plus your regular salary.
How much do you know how much it is for like an adjunct professor or a clinical professor or something like that?
When I looked at UNC Charlotte, I know one of the professor, like finance professors, is a clinical professor. He's getting paid $140, and he's been working at, I think he's at B of A. He's been there for 20 years. So
oh my god. So talk about double dipping, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's doing well for
he's
himself.
Gonna be happy.
Yeah.
That's sick.
So doing something like that is something I definitely want to do. Right. But because I think I do have an issue with like some professors are just like they've never seen work in their life. Yeah. That's where I'm like, it's kind of weird. It's like you're teaching us these, especially in finance, like they'll talk about like certain theories that work in a school setting when you have all the parameters and everything, but like out in the real world, it's not gonna work and no one really uses it.
Business, finance related things, I feel like you have like work experience should be like a requirement. I think there's somewhere it's not necessarily the case. Like economics, I don't think you need like I think you can talk about like different economic theories. You can talk about international trade. I think in any case it would help if you had like practical experience in the workforce, but. And I think it's for some degrees it's more than the other. But
I was gonna say for economics, I feel like what you're gonna be doing at school is also what you're gonna be doing at work. I feel like a lot of it is like research and
it's research, it's theories, it's correcting other people's work, finding errors in your own, stuff like that. Yeah.
So you were saying you're talking about you worked at a private equity firm. Yeah. Can you talk about like what were the differences between working there versus working in banking? And like the pros and cons of each?
I would say, I mean, the private equity world is definitely like, it's kind of like its own thing away from, I don't want to like necessarily categorize it or like couple it with like consulting or investment banking and stuff like that, but it's a little bit like that. I think the place where I worked was a little bit smaller, so I had a little bit more freedom to kind of explore things and like a little bit more flexibility on work hours. Mind you, it was still like I was there at like 8 every day, and then I left around like 7 or 8 p.m. So it was like still a grind for sure. But I mean, it's definitely a hustle. I think you learn. I came in, so it was interesting. I came in knowing absolutely nothing about like private equity, like how anything worked, and I kind of like that environment. I like starting from square one and just like sponging in as much information as possible, like getting to see how these different things works. And I picked up on everything really quickly. Yeah. I found it very fun. I liked working with it, and I think more so than consulting or investment banking, right? Consulting is like, you work for a company for, a specific amount of time. You don't have any like liability on the company. You just, you can offer some thoughts here and there. And then like investment banking, you're like trying to prop up this company on as much greatness as possible and like, sell the idea to, to other people. And I think the beauty of private equity is not only do you take on the library, right? Because what happens in private equity, you find a company, you buy it for like a specific amount of time, you build it up, you prop it up, you make changes to kind of make it better, and then you sell it, right? So that's where that's the consistent model across the board. I think what that does is it gives you that liability that consulting doesn't have, right? Like you're responsible for the growth of the company. Any impact that any recommendation you make will directly impact you. Well, not indirectly, but in 2 degrees will impact you. And then I think on the investment banking side where you have to prop it up, you just say it's great and stuff like that. Obviously you do a little bit of that towards the end to when you're selling it, but you also, you have to be real with yourself and with the team there about how to properly grow the company and how to make it more valuable, how to, optimize the organizational structure, all the workflows and the processes and everything like that. So I really liked that whole vibe of being able to like, take on the liability and work with the company, really make it better and then go from there. What it does is, but yeah, it's just, I liked that journey that you go through with a company. And I think that made it good for me. The differences between doing that and then working at like a big company at USA on the insurance/banking side of things, I think it was, obviously the culture at USA is like insanely awesome, and it's like, well known across, the whole corporate world to be fantastic. So, that, I'm going to be fully honest, going into it, I thought it was a complete hoax. I thought it was like, oh, they say it's great corporate culture and like, but everybody just says that. It's like what you want to learn. No, I actually loved being happy, like showing up to work. Not that I wasn't happy like in private equity or anything like that. It was just like, it's just the little things, and everybody's really well enamored with the mission that they have, and there's a lot more. I feel like for me, I can be like a little bit more of myself at work, and I think little things like that actually matter a little bit more. I think private equity world, you have to be very official. Private equity, like investment banking, consulting, right? You have to be very professional all the time. Like professionalism is just as important as your competency when it comes to like doing actual work and things like that. So I think being able to be myself while also, grinding out the work and stuff like that at USAA, something like that made for a much more enjoyable experience overall for me. And so I did fall in love with that USAA and the USA type of vibe, as you know. So,
but do you think that like if it wasn't like if you had to compare like all of banking, like I know you don't have really experience with every other place, but you think private equity or like just like when you like comparing it to like Citi or working at B of A or Wells and things like that, like you think has more benefits, do you think, than working in banking, or do you think like they each have their own?
They each have their own, right? It's they're two, I don't want to say completely different worlds, but it's just like what you learn is different. And I'm assuming you mean just not just in general on the investment banking side on like Citi or like Bank of America or Wells or anything, like just in general.
Yeah, in general.
I would say like I think it's just different, right? With you're gonna develop a very specific set of skills in private equity, right? Yeah. You're gonna build financial literacy, and you're gonna be able to create models left and right. You're gonna know how to work those long hours and stuff like that. You're gonna be able to know how to make those pitch presentations for investors coming in, for executive committees and stuff like that. You're going to learn how to do due diligence and stuff like that. It's a very specific set of skills that you don't necessarily section yourself into because you work with a wide variety of companies, so you see a lot of different things. But your very your workflow is very, I don't want to say consistent, but it's focused in that realm. Yeah. I think at a big company, at a big bank, you could do a million different things. You could work on the investment banking side and kind of learn the same stuff. You could work in marketing and advertising, right? Like you could go into procurement and things like it. Like there's just so much you can do, and I think it's obviously, like again, like on the private equity side, you're going to be a little bit smaller in certain terms of size. Usually, in there are a lot more boutique firms than there are like boutique banks.
Yeah.
But like at a bigger bank, like you have a lot more directionality and options in terms of where you want to go and stuff like that. So I just think I don't think there's any pro or con or any specific pro or con for each. It's an amalgamation of a lot of different things, and you got to just know where you're at and what kind of thing you want to do. I think for me, I fell in love with the idea of working at a company and going straight into a big company and then working there for a very, very long period of time and like making my way through the ranks. That's what a lot of my mentors did. It's what my father did. And like that idea to me is really, it's something that I very strongly resonate with. Yeah. But I think it's interesting because in today's world, a lot of people are focused on like having the perfect like work-life balance and employee, like, it's harder to keep a job and stuff like that. Like, HR executives are all talking about how, keeping people at the company with, benefits and everything like that. Like people shift companies a lot more nowadays. Yeah. So I think it's to be able to come in today's world is different, but I wanted to be able to I kind of now know I want to be able to come in and say, I want to work at this place for, a long time. I can see myself rising through the ranks here and committing to the company, to the mission, and staying there.
Yeah, they always complain about how people are jumping jobs and things like that. Like they know the fix, they know what caused it. It was the pension. When they took away the pensions. Yeah, that's what. Like they bring them back. People will probably stay at their same company.
Interesting how that works, right? If you pay somebody more money, they might want to stay at your company.
Yeah, I was like, if you guarantee them some money when they retire, they'll probably stay. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it is interesting. But the about when you were saying you think like Wake Forest might have had like that name might have had like a little bit of help. How much? And I think this like what people talk about all the time is like it's like who you know versus what you know. Right. How do you feel about like that whole concept? Because I think it's very prominent in the business world, and I think the only area where it's not prominent is with like hedge funds for the most part, or if you are leading like a firm.
I'm gonna disagree with that and say it matters everywhere.
Really?
I think no matter what field you're in the world of business, in the world of computer science, in the world of English, I'll even give it like I don't even know, but I think one of my friends, he jokingly says like your net worth is your network.
Oh wait, sorry. I was saying the opposite is true only for those two things. So I was saying it's like your network is the like one like knowing who you know is like more important than what you know.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what he's saying, right? Like it's what matters to you and your a lot of your ability to get a job or to know places to go or to rise through the ranks or whatever is like there's this definitely idea of connections and some people like to call it like within a company in terms of rising through the ranks. Some people like to call it corporate sponsorship or whatever. So I think it does matter. Realistically, it does. And, being able to say, right, like, because for any given application, right, for a job, you're going to have, say, 1,000 applicants. If you're one person who comes in and knows, the HR executive or something like that, and, they say, hey, it's never, I don't think it's ever like a, oh, hey, give this person a job type of thing. But it's like, oh, this person is, you should check out their name and like I think having a real set of eyes on like a resume is a game changer. So like, somebody will see that instead of like a computer going through and saying, oh, if it matches this GPA, if they have this many, extracurricular activities and, they've taken these classes or whatever. So like if you have a real set of eyes on a resume, it tells a different story. And even more than that, a conversation with somebody stands out. Like, if you can talk to them and say, hey, I did this. And, like for me personally, I do so much better in a conversation with people than I do like in a, just somebody looking at my resume. I think they tell completely different stories. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's the reality of where things are. And I think, that's I honestly, there's not much more to say on it. It's the reality where you're you gotta grind to keep.
Yeah. I have a weird goal of getting to the point, which I don't think is possible, of getting to the point where it's like, like being able to do stuff that no one else could do, and having that sort of security.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't even know if like you could say like maybe some CFOs have it and like CEOs, but it feels like everybody could be replaced. And that is such a
I think you got to keep that. I think it's also like that humility factor is also super important. I know, like, one of my dreams is to like, you know, keep like if I ever become like some big executive or whatever, just like I'll keep like, you know, some people like have a plaque on the desk like, you know, so and so, like CEO or CFO or something like that. I want to be able to like keep my name like Shreyas Bhasin, and then like if it's at like USA or something, like I'll be like financial analyst intern or something like that. I think the importance of knowing that you are replaceable keeps you going. Like especially for successful people, it keeps them going. It's like, no, you're never safe. You're never safe. And the higher up you go, the more people are going to be at your throat. I'm assuming. So it's just it's a harsh reality.
It's a crazy world because like the only time that's not a thing, I feel like, even in like most of life, is like sports. Yeah. Like you could be LeBron, like no one's replacing LeBron. Yeah. No. And things like that.
That's a good point.
But it is like what if work, like how like careers was like that? Like I always like think about that. Like that would be. It
is interesting.
Like I think Elon Musk.
So yeah, I was literally about to say like I feel like there are a few CEOs out there like, that are just like these killer people and just know how to run a business. Maybe not Elon Musk and Twitter because he's having issues there or whatever. But like him and SpaceX and Tesla is a crazy story.
I was gonna say he's CEO of like 7 businesses. I feel like that's when it starts.
You know, he's like some random company called The Boring Company. He literally calls it that.
Yeah,
just
The Boring
does
Company.
Random stuff with it. It's awesome. It's awesome. But like, I think him. I think, you know, like a Henry Ford type of guy. I don't know. I mean, Jamie Dimon's done a lot with JP Morgan Chase and stuff like that. So I think there are, you know, quite a few. I think every once in a while, like that's what's always enamored me about the. You ever hear like the 4 factors of production in economics is land, labor, capital, and then they recently added entrepreneurship. I think adding in entrepreneurship was actually like the most genius thing in the world. I think you need to have like some serious self-starters who, like some people who are once in a lifetime type of people. Like nobody could have done what Rockefeller did, you know. Nobody could have done what Steve Jobs and Bill Gates did, right? It's so I think to an extent, I think maybe at that, I think you could apply, and I think this is an applicable concept to sports and to business as well. When you're at the highest of levels, when you're at the highest of levels, it does matter, you know, your personal competence, your personal ability to get something done, your productivity has to be higher than somebody else. Yeah, because it makes me wonder if like at a high school basketball level, if you could get on the team through like, you know, like say you knew the coach or something like that, like could you think you could get on the team or something like that? So there's still that level of connections and stuff like that could work there, and the same way it works in the world of business, like you could get like entry level positions or something like that, but once it gets to a higher level, it's harder to do that. It's harder to get like, you know, to use a connection to get, you know, to get a job or something.
Like I know this person could make me CEO.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, probably not gonna work.
Yeah, though, it is. Yeah, dude, Elon Musk is a crazy dude. It's like something I'm like, if he can do it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you want to do what he does, I feel like you have to be a little bit of crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
But I also wonder, like, because he's like one of the first, him, like Zuckerberg, like they're like the first CEOs that are kind of like picking up on like the influencer type of thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm wondering if that's going to be the shift. Because like there's like now companies are like, actors are starting companies and celebrities and like YouTubers and
everybody's
things like
investing in them and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if we're gonna slowly see a shift from like it's not what you know or who you know, it's how much influence you have. Here we go again.
I watched a YouTube video recently that talked about how 10 years ago, if you thought social media influencer or social media manager was a job title in 10 years, what would you say? And everybody was like, yeah, no, not a chance. Like, why would that even be a thing? And now, like, people are getting, like, 6 figures to, like, manage social media accounts for big companies and stuff like that. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I think, yeah, our generation is a little screwed in terms of, like, our consumption of media and stuff like that on the social media level side of things. I think there are some things like YouTube where the fact of the matter is, like, not only is it coming to effect, but it could be a good thing, right? Like there are people like you. I'm gonna be so transparent right here. Like, there are people like you who watch like MIT related videos, who like go down good rabbit holes and like learn about finance and stuff like that. I literally last night was watching basketball highlights and movie clips. So there's two very specific types of people. I'm sitting here like, oh damn, I really need to get my shit together. Like, God damn it, dude. So yeah, I think there will be a divide in like, you know, people who use like YouTube and things like that and social media as a tool versus the people who use it as an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it's very interesting to see.
But influencer businesses are doing great.
It's unreal.
Prime's doing great, dude. All of the what's his name, Ryan Reynolds companies.
Dude, he's invested in like 7 different sports teams. Like I just saw like he became a partner in a Formula 1 team recently. I mean, I follow a lot of Formula 1 teams, so a lot of Formula 1. So there's this one team called Alpine, and like he's like such a huge investor now. They one of the drivers wore a Deadpool themed helmet for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. I was just like, wow, already. And then he's got like his what is it? He's got that like West Ham or something. What's the Wrexham? Wrexham is the soccer team that he's involved in. Okay. They made a whole soccer. They made like a whole TV series about it or something like that. So he's propping them up a bunch. You ever see those ads on YouTube? The Mint Mobile ads.
Yeah, Mint Mobile.
He's in that. I mean,
the gin that he
has. The aviation gin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be sorry, Ryan Reynolds. Like, it was just I tried it. It was terrible.
I've never had. I've been told that you should never drink celebrity alcohol.
Yeah, that's a good point. Except for the Snoop Dogg wine.
I've never had the Snoop Dogg one.
That's also terrible, but I think, just rep Snoop Dogg. Dude, did you see he's giving up smoking?
Really?
Did you see that? This was the crazy thing. He was
that.
like, I have to stop smoking. And then he made a whole like emotional post about it. And like top comment was brothers talking about giving up smoking like he just lost a family member. I was like, oh my goodness.
That's crazy. He's gonna stop.
Apparently he's bad for his apparently it's bad for you. Apparently it's bad for your health or something.
I was gonna say the way he's been smoking for the past 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's still kicking.
I mean, he does look like a skeleton.
That's true.
Pretty much. But I mean,
yeah, he's not gonna he doesn't have to worry about like heart disease and things like that. That's for sure.
I guess not. I mean, he's probably he's got to worry about other things, but not that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, but the celebrity business is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I think like I'm hoping it won't. I'm sure it'll probably slowly shift to that. I'm thinking that's what's gonna happen eventually. Is like every company is gonna need a celebrity.
You think?
I'm not sure, but I don't know if like that's how it's gonna shift. Because like, I mean, the biggest companies like Elon Musk is like picked up on, like Tesla, they're picking up on. Like he's started to become a celebrity to get into that space. Zuck also, especially with like them talking about like wanting to fight and things like that. So maybe them.
I think that checks for like a lot of the big companies again that are in the limelight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, you need somebody there to kind of corroborate the mission and like show everybody else like, yeah, this is what we're trying to do, and like be, very open about it and everything like that. You need like a mascot or a celebrity. I think you're right. I think for like, obviously for like more like the back end companies, like a lot of, I feel like it's a difference of B2B versus B2C, right? Like consumer oriented businesses obviously need celebrities and stuff like that, but the B2B businesses won't.
Yeah. They're going to it'll hurt actually probably having that if you're B2B.
I just don't think it like makes sense. Like, so it's interesting. I do you ever see like ads for companies that like offer like software solutions or something like that to large scale businesses? And I like the first thought that comes to my head is like, why do you need advertisements for that? Like, why would you spend advertising money on that to like getting it to a consumer like me? Like, I'm watching a YouTube video. I don't have like $10 million for somebody to optimize $100 million business. Yeah. Like, I don't like. It's just interesting to me whenever I see those types of ads. I don't know if it like reaches like
they're just doing bad ad targeting.
Yeah, or they're doing bad ad. Like I feel like most of that is like referral or like know the like people within that ecosystem already know the name or something like that. So I don't know. It's interesting for a B2B type of environment, but I feel like that's where B2B is where more. I wonder if like B2B businesses or B2C businesses make more like across the board. Like I'd be curious to see that because
well, B2C, I don't know, like we're starting to see the trend of like they're all converting to more like subscription based, which is like what a lot of B2B businesses like you're gonna get this income every month, every quarter, and that's what they're doing. Like subscriptions have gone crazy. Everything is a subscription now.
It's so crazy. And like I took a class in which we took like 2 or 3 days like to talk about like the economics behind subscriptions and everything. Like it's genius. It's crazy. Like when you delve into the science of it, it's like it makes sense. It makes sense, and makes sense why it works. But it's still just crazy when you like look at the bill at the end of the month and you're like, oh, I spent a shit ton of money on stuff that I just didn't even know I needed to spend it on.
Yeah, the subscription. I'm surprised it's just now like becoming a thing. Like hasn't been. I feel like since there probably like wasn't a thing back in the 90s. I feel like in the 80s and things like that. But
you could spend a subscription on if you could only spend a subscription on 3 things, regardless of price. Like, what would it be?
A subscription on three
things you could subscribe to. Like, what would you need for like your life, to sustain life, or just for I guess like happiness?
Happiness,
food.
Yeah. Food would be one.
Food subscription would be heat.
Like, I guess like just delivery, like food and things like that.
Yeah.
Probably. Oh my gosh. Yeah, food for sure. Probably Amazon. I don't even know if that's like a like delivery
Prime
service.
Prime the fact that I don't, right?
Yeah, the fact that I don't have to go to the store to get like something small.
Yeah.
Or I can just order like a whole bunch of things and they just all come out as a good store.
Well, the Prime would be the part of that subscription, so you'd essentially get everything. You get the movie. Actually, Prime is probably the best one.
Prime is probably
you get the movies, you get expedited orders and everything like that.
Yeah.
I think Prime would be a solid choice. I like the food one though too.
And dang, I don't know. Not gonna lie, I can't. I have YouTube Premium. I haven't watched the ad in like 6 years.
Dude, I hate that. I thought for a second like if I just did the math, how much time of my life will have been spent on YouTube ads? And every time I think about that, I get really depressed. I'm like, gosh, I am just like an average consumer in this world. I've been tricked. Like, yeah, I just sit there and wait to watch like, the Avengers assembling like one more time, like a video that I've seen like literally 20 times before. I'm like, I'm watching ads to see this. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the one thing I have not been able to like I will never get rid of. I will always have YouTube Premium. I think it's is it that good? It's the most beneficial thing. Yeah, because I'll just watch like. I know I would be on my phone less if I had to click a video and like it's a 30-second video and there's a 30-second ad. I would not watch the video.
Yeah.
But having like the ability to just like watch anything or like just not have to worry about like that 5-second, 10-second inconvenience is worth the, I think, $18 a month I pay.
That checks.
Yeah.
That checks.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody the other day, last thing about that, but like about the greatest like acquisitions or buyouts like in like history, and I think somebody said Google buying out YouTube might have been the best. And now that I think about it, like that I think that checks out. I think they bought them for like 10 or it was like it was either 2 or like 10 or 12 billion dollars or something. It was a lot. And like I think at the time everybody was just like, this is the dumbest thing. Why would you ever do that? Like, dumbest thing in the world. And now like they have NFL Sunday Ticket. YouTube TV has NFL Sunday Ticket. It's crazy.
That's up there. On a smaller scale, Disney buying Marvel, even though they're not.
I'm gonna agree with you. I think this is a you and me and like our generation type of thing. That was genius. Yeah, that was goated.
Yeah, I don't think not on this like now how they're going. Like it's not doing very well. Dude, but the acquisition of getting the name and like all of those like intangible assets. Like I was watching like a Disney deep dive on why Disney like they're not doing very good. Cash flow wise, but they're still bringing in operations wise, but they're still bringing in tons of money because they franchise out like the amusement park in like Japan and China and things like that. Like those aren't Disney parks; they're just giving them the name and the brand, and they're selling that, which is crazy. And I didn't know like Disney, not Disney, Mickey Mouse is like an intangible asset that they can write off for like 100 years. That's what it was, something like that. Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean it's crazy how that hype works.
Yeah.
Just create a mouse and it's hundreds of billions of dollars, dude.
Yeah. No one would have ever thought that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. Disney buying Marvel was definitely.
That was definitely a good one.
a solid one. They've all done great acquisitions though. Disney is. That's what I was saying like too. Disney isn't a like a entertainment company. They're a legal company. They have the biggest legal firm.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like the most legal workers like on a company or something like that. Because
Wow.
they're always just looking how to acquire certain things and like
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's why they always require like they acquire Pixar, Marvel, 21st Century Fox.
They did that.
Like,
do you think they're gonna get very very niche conversation topic? But do you think they're gonna get Spider-Man eventually?
Sony like this? I don't know. It depends. I think if Sony fumbles on movies, like they keep
which they are, except for the Spider-Verse movies. I think those movies are incredible.
Yeah, Spider-Verse movies are solid, but
other than that, like it's bad news.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
but like the Venom movie,
Venom,
like,
and the other one that wasn't. It was like Dracula, Morbius.
Like all of those are like 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. You're just like,
and I'm not hyped for Madam Web. I don't know if that's.
Oh, I saw the trailer came out.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
It's questionable.
Yeah, it's questionable.
It's questionable.
Maybe they'll get it one day.
Hopefully. I mean, they got it right with Tobey Maguire. And I liked Andrew Garfield. Okay. Another niche conversation topic. Rank the Spider-Man.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. This is a classic.
I think I'm gonna have to go with Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield. I'm
gonna switch.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland.
Really?
Yeah.
I like Tom Holland, like his personality and like his comedic sense.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Like
I think they did a good job with the character of Peter Parker. I just didn't like that his Spider-Man was Iron Man Jr. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, that's true.
I also hate Tom Holland.
Why is that?
Pretty sure. Like, there's a lot of reasons I could list off, but I'm going to be very real. I think it's because he's dating Zendaya, and I'm really jealous about that.
Okay.
As we all should be.
Yeah, that's true. I did have a weird thing. One time I went to, like, when it was like, I was in 5th grade when Shake It Up became a thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like, they live in California, like LA. And then my family, we were going to go out to California for this, like, for vacation in the summer.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? When I go out there, I'm gonna find her. I'm gonna see her, and I'm gonna marry her. I was like, I'm gonna find Zendaya and I'm gonna marry her.
She's got to be like, how everybody was in love with Marilyn Monroe back in the old days. I feel like Zendaya might be our Marilyn Monroe. Our generation's Marilyn Monroe.
Our generation's Marilyn Monroe, probably.
She's amazing, dude.
I was gonna say
she's got it all. She's got it all.
She does. So we should. I kind of want to talk about. And you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to. Can you tell me about Inferno Guard? You're one of the co-founders. Yeah. And first of all, I'd like to say you're only co-founder that doesn't have a picture on the website. They did you kind of dirty.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to check out their Instagram, there's a cute picture of Shreyas in a little blue baseball cap when he's like 14 or 15. But in front of like the Capitol or something.
That's crazy.
But yeah, you're one of the co-founders. What is that company about, and what is it that you do with it?
So we do fire detection and notification systems / solutions. That's what it was built upon. So what happened there was, I'll give you the full lineage, right? We started out with this science competition called E-Cyber Mission in 9th grade. It's actually funded by the Army, which I thought was pretty cool.
They do that a lot.
Yeah, they do a lot of it. It's like it encourages students to solve, problems in their community using STEM-based solutions. Mm-hmm. We submitted into that competition. We had a bit of time to come up with an idea. There were forest fires in the mountains, in the Appalachian Mountains, one day, and like they just kept on going, and like the smoke was so bad we could see it at our school all the way like in Charlotte.
This is your freshman year?
This was my freshman. This is 9th grade, freshman year in high school. And so we were like, okay, let's detect fires or something like that. So over the course of that year, we built a box. It was crazy. They give you a $250 budget. There's this huge clunky box with like disgusting orange flame retardant, like, stuff on the inside, like, and it had like this big old breadboard with a Raspberry Pi computer with 3 sensors that stuck out of it. There was a temperature humidity sensor. There was a flame detector and there was a smoke detector.
Okay.
And we submitted it. We thought we did good work to the competition, and we made it all the way to nationals, which was pretty impressive. It was a great run for us, and we had a great time doing that. Well, we just kept realizing that there were no legitimate solutions for forest fire detection out there. And so what we did was over the next couple of years, we submitted it to various competitions and like startup thingies, like for high school students and stuff. And we had a few successes here and there, but nothing, to the original success of that originally cyber mission competition. And we kind of, I don't want to say we shelved it, but it went on the back burner for a little bit towards the end of our high school years. And we got to college, and it was like the COVID year, right? So nobody was really doing anything. And then one of our co-founders, Kevin, who's our CEO, he comes in and he says, "Hey, he's at I'm at Northwestern, and Northwestern has like one of the best startup like ecosystems in all of undergraduate schools in the U.S. And they have this program called the Garage. It's basically the startup accelerator, pretty much, think tank kind of thing. Absolutely fantastic. They got some really impressive people there. So he was like, "Hey, look, I've got all these resources at my disposal. Let's do something here. Like, let's see what we can run." And so he was like, "I think we should do it here. I think we should base everything here." I'm like, let's talk to the rest of the team. We talked to Zoe, who does our tech, and then we have Nandita, who does operations and other things like that. And so the four of us just came together. We started Inferno Guard LLC, and it was, I think that was like April of 2021 when we officially like incorporated. So it was that second semester of freshman year in college. But up until then, we worked really hard to kind of like get everything together. We submitted ourselves to be in their startup incubator program over that summer, that 2021 summer year. We got to hear from CEOs, chief marketing executives, and like a whole bunch of people in every kind of like major department of a general business to learn about what we needed to do to, kind of bring together all aspects of the business. And so we learned a lot there. We furthered the process. We, got to do a lot of research and development and on our product. And, we went from like that big clunky $250 box right to something a lot smaller, a lot more efficient, different sensors, and we got a better understanding of what chemicals we want to search for in the air and everything like that. So it was a great kind of progression that we had there. That summer was definitely our biggest push and everything like that. We learned a lot personally. We had a lot of success with the company and stuff like that in terms of trying things out and testing and everything like that. Over the next couple of years, we kind of, I don't want to say necessarily like plateaued, but we maintained at that level of, we want to consistently keep doing some research and development. We got to a point where we worked with offshore product developers to help us with that. Cause at one point it was literally just like me, coding and putting together, simple circuits. And I just didn't have the capacity to do that like single-handedly. And we had, our co-founder Zoe come in and help at some points too. And like, it was just, we just couldn't get enough done for what we want, for the progress that we needed to make and that we wanted to make. It just wasn't enough, the two of us working on it. So we brought in the offshore product developers. That was good for us. And we made some, changes to the corporation structure, right? We went from an LLC to a C Corp and everything like that. And I think, over those next couple of years, we started to delve into another direction where instead of just developing, this hardware that could detect forest fires, using a network of these devices in a given area, we also wanted to say, okay, well, we need to figure out where to strategically place these forest fire detection boxes, essentially, right? So what we did was we developed this software that takes does a geoanalysis of land in a specific area based on like elevation, thickness of the vegetation, average temperature, average humidity, and stuff like that, and identifies like stress points. Because it's interesting how the dynamics of that works, right? If you have like a hill and a fire is at the bottom of this hill, obviously heat rises and the smoke is going to rise. So this area up here is technically more at risk, right, than this area would have been down here if the fire wasn't there. So it's saying, okay, this is a stress point. This is a potential point of vulnerability. We need to put more boxes in this area or something like that. So that's essentially what software is designed to do, and it's had quite a bit of success in working on things there. Over the next couple of years, I worked on it, a certain amount of time, and then my level of involvement kind of, decreased overall, and that was a personal choice as well as just what was best for the company, and that's why I'm not listed as in reference to that. That's why I'm not listed there. It was, I think the turning point was the summer after that 2022 summer. Both all three of them, Kevin, Zoe, and Andy, stayed on to work for the company that summer and continued to build on the efforts that we had that last year. And I got the opportunity to work at the private equity firm, and I think for me it was great to see that kind of that side of the startup world. I liked it quite a bit, but for me, I was very adamant on, through each of the 3 summers that I had in my college years, I wanted to do different things and get as much exposure to the world as possible. Yeah. So doing the same thing would have been good, but it was more personally important to me to work somewhere else and to see what else I could get. So that was me. That was the first summer that I didn't work on it, right? And then I think this last summer, everybody kind of did their own thing. I think Nandita worked at a biotech startup firm. Kevin, he was I believe it was Bain or BCG in San Francisco, and I think Zoe was abroad or something like that. So we were all doing different things, and I think we kind of got to the point where we were like, okay, this is great. We've had a lot of successes, but we've learned so much from it. Literally, the learning experience. I'll talk about that in a minute. It was ridiculous, but we kind of got to the point where we're like, okay, we can start winding things down. Everybody's starting to get return offers and stuff like that. And so it's gone through its natural progression. Now we're in the winding down process of trying to make sure everything kind of, we're just going to tie a bow on it and everything, and make sure we've got all our ducks in a row for that. So yeah, that's the natural progression of things. That's how it's gone. And so
was the goal to sell it eventually?
Goal was, that's what we're talking about now. Part of the idea is to sell the company. Part of it is to sell, the intellectual property that we have tied to the company, because we got one of the best things we did was early on, we got 2 patents on the first patent was on the actual forest fire detection notification device, and the second was to have the idea to put it into a network of system where these boxes were going to communicate with each other and then eventually collect all their information and send it up. So the patents are very valuable. They're very tangible, right, assets to us and to everything. So part of the thought process could be to sell the patents. Part of the thought process could be to sell the company. Part of the thought process could be to just donate the patents and, maybe get a little tax write-off or something like that. Who knows? Yeah. It's just there's a lot of different ways we could go about it. That's what we're trying to kind of figure out now and kind of, again, like I said, put our ducks in a row and tie a bow on everything. So
yeah. You guys went to the same high school? Is that how that
we
started?
all did? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Originally, the group formed because 2 years before that, so it was 2 years before 9th grade, 7th grade, we did the same competition. The competition does for 6th graders to 9th graders. We did it in our 7th grade. There was we made a brace for dogs with hip dysplasia. Basically, the way hip dysplasia works, and that dogs have their hip bone and then their femurs, they kind of hip dysplasia forces the femurs outside of that the sockets that they're supposed to go in. So we developed this brace that kind of pushes them back in, and we got to the same point that we did in the 9th grade, right? We got to the nationals and everything like that. We loved it, and we were like, oh, we want to do this again. But I still remember it was crazy. Initially sitting down with those people, I had no idea who any of them were. I was like, oh, I'm just doing this because my dad yelled at me for not doing enough, not doing enough in my middle school years. So I was like, oh, okay, let's try this. But yeah, I guess crazy occurrence.
Yeah,
led to one of the best experiences of my life.
I was looking, I was doing a deep dive.
You did a deep dive on
Shreyas, and I was like, okay, y'all have a website, y'all have everything.
Yeah, no. Website's great, and Nandita does a lot of work on it. It was a crazy journey. You learn an insane amount through that about a company, about what goes into running a company and managing it and making, having strong strategy and workflow and, pushing things forward and stuff like that. It's the learning curve you get is insane. And I think it was important for me in two facets, right? The first of which is having that on a resume is a huge game changer. I'm a firm believer that experience, whether it was as a project or as a startup at some point, right, helped me get into Wake Forest. It helped me land internships, and it's been very fundamental to my product. I mean, I'm able to talk about, like, the classic interview questions, like, tell me a time when you disagreed with a coworker and had to. I was like, I've got plenty of subject material there. No, but like it's not just that, right? You have amalgamations of crazy, unique experiences, and it teaches you a world of experiences, and it builds this this work ethic kind of vibe into you. Like, I'm always ready to go at a moment's notice. I can change course on a dime. I can adapt well. It just builds those things into you. So, there's the how it looks, to the outside world kind of facet of the experience, and then there's also it just like the skills it builds into you is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to ask about, like, steer back to computer science. What have you learned while being a computer science major that you think most people, like, things like skills that you've learned that you think most people should adopt, or like theories or things like that? Like, for example, I was reading a book. It was called Algorithms for Life, and it was talking about, I don't know if you've heard of the secretary problem or the 37 rule, which is basically let's say you have you're interviewing 100 people, right?
Right.
You'd want to only the first 37 people you'd only want to talk to, and you're just like understanding everybody's concepts, and then after that's when you would make a selection for the rest of the people from like 38 on. That's what, like, the optimal search and like search and decide decision, pretty much, like how to decide between searching and deciding. And so, like, they say you can use it for anything, like dating. You could use it for, like, if you're like, okay, I'm 18, I want to be married by 28, like the first 3.5 years or 4 years of my life, I'm gonna focus mainly on understanding what I enjoy in a spouse and things like that, and then afterwards, once I turn like 22 23, that's when I'll start looking to actually settle down and things like that. And then also like, for example, like the explore/exploit, which is like a thing I was saying that basically, like, let's say you live in Charlotte, right, and you have your favorite restaurant. You're like, okay, your family, like, it's like, let's go to this restaurant, like, this is our favorite restaurant, or we could go to this other restaurant, which could be better, but you live in Charlotte, so if you go to this restaurant and it is better, you'll be able to go to a lot more. And then you won't really miss out on that one. Like, if it's bad, it won't be that much of an issue, because you can always just go back to the other restaurant. But if you're like, let's say you're traveling and you're in Italy and you're like, we've been to Italy once, we really love this restaurant, we should go here again. Like, there's this other restaurant that could be good, but also, like, we're never going to be in Italy again. So if we waste that. So it's like an interesting,
what is optimal?
Yeah, it's like what's like very interesting, like concepts like that, like how they put that into computers, and then like how humans can also use this. So is there anything like that you've learned?
I'd structure this into two thoughts. The first of which is the biggest misconception, I think, with computer science is that you're sitting in front of a computer typing. Comp sci is not, at its fundamental base, is not coding. Comp sci is problem solving. And I think for me that has been absolutely critical, because whether or not you realize it, we all do it, right? Like, whether it's this, search and exploit problem or something like that, or you're just thinking about how to like for me it was like, there's a bunch of groceries in the back of the car. Like, do I take all of it and run the risk, or do like I'm gonna have to or maybe I'm gonna have to take multiple trips. Like, how many should I take on each trip, and like where should I put it? Like, should I put it like directly into the fridge and the freezer as soon as I get it in? Like, it's just like, whether you think about it or not, you are constantly in this mindset of solving problems not just in a way that it gets the job done, but it gets the job done optimally and at the most efficient manner possible. So that's the first thing I'll say. And then I think the second thing that I think it's obviously huge to have, the more coding and technical side of things. Again, like we talked about, like in business today, it matters. It helps, and it's key to understand how to search through data and to process it and to understand it, make conjectures or conclusions from it. I think that's the key thing. Does that answer the basis of the question?
Yeah. And then like also because you're an economics major, is there anything that you think like you've learned in economics? Like what's the most interesting thing that you've learned in economics? Like I think for me is which isn't very, it's not like an economics problem, but it is something that they study. My professor called it the speed limit paradox.
Okay.
Which is basically like how many people are you willing to let die for you to get to your destination?
Yeah.
So like, we can all drive 100 miles per hour, but the deaths will probably go up and increase. But we could also all drive 10 miles per hour and probably no one would die. Yep. So it's an interesting thing to like be like, okay, how many people are we okay with dying on this road? Right. That way it's like the least amount of inconvenience.
Terrifying concept, right?
Yeah.
Like you actually think about it. No, that whole thought process of cost benefit analysis is crazy, because that's, again, it's another way of thinking optimally and like trying to figure out what's the fastest I can go without risking lives but still getting me to a destination as quickly as possible. So like I think that idea of knowing that different people have different preferences, view the world in a different lens, and they optimize it according to that it's a very interesting thing to think about, and it still factors into that whole problem solving mindset that everybody has. And I think what my at least education in economics has taught me is how to look at it through different lenses of scarcity, of money, of different factors of production that we look at, or in the lens of supply and demand, right? Like it's all just like at the center of everything. It's how the world works with a little bit of a kind of a twist on things, with a little bit of a finance related optics, right? So I think that's what it is. And I think one of the things that I've learned this year, actually a little bit more out there, but economics is more of a science than it is anything. I always thought like I was just going to use my econ degree to like say, oh, I know business basically, without getting the business degree or something like that. This whole year has taught me like, oh, economics is a science. Like you
it's completely
do
different.
research, you do statistical analysis, you ask questions, you ponder the system, and then you develop a conclusion, and you have two more questions from that initial one that you had, and then it percolates through, and you have a whole bunch going on at that point in your head. So it's a beautiful science is what I've partially learned this year. So
the hypothesis testing, like when I was 12 years old, I would have never been like, I'm doing this. Like this is not gonna be in my career at all.
Hey, you're like, sitting there like, oh, what the heck is this? I hate this. No, it's how, it's a lot of economics. It's how it works. And I'm starting to delve into the research side of things for economics. I've been taking a class on, it's called Prep for Economic Research. So I'm doing a thesis for this year, and it's like it's learning about how that whole process works. It's fascinating, and I've just become very enamored with it.
Is it required for your?
It's not required at all. Okay. Not required at all. I think the way the honors program at Wake works, I think across all departments, is you have to have like a minimum GPA of like 3.0 across all your classes, and then you have to have a minimum GPA of whatever the individual department decides. So for computer science, it's 3.6. I think for economics, it was 3.4. And so at the end of your junior, or at the beginning of your senior year, they'll send you an email and say, hey, if you want to partake in a computer science or economics thesis, you've met these requirements, meet with a professor by this date, have a topic by this date, and be ready to go by this date. So yeah, that's how that works there. But I'm pursuing both right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I got it for both comp sci and econ. So for computer science, I'm looking at quantum computing and how all that works, and the a little bit of it's very interesting. I'm looking at the economics behind quantum computing. Okay. And then for the economics thesis, I'm looking at how artificial intelligence and emerging technologies are going to affect the software development roles. So it's like it's literally both are literally crossing over each other and stuff like that. I think it's very funny, but
that's smart.
It's how I know how to look at things. So right, why not just do it that way?
Yeah. Do you think so with the whole artificial intelligence? Are you more excited? I know some people are scared and like, oh my God, it's gonna kill us. Like it's gonna be the end of us. Like what do you think 100 years from now? What do you think what's gonna be us?
I think,
because I feel like tell
me your thoughts first.
I think we're probably going to be slowly implemented into it. Like we're going to have to either evolve into it. Like it's probably going to start becoming either connected to us or we become connected to like computers. And otherwise, like we're probably just going to be left behind. Like we're not going to be able to keep up.
No, I mean, here's the simple fact of the matter. Artificial intelligence will either substitute or complement work that you can do. I don't think it can substitute I don't think it can fully substitute a job. Like I think, I mean, obviously if you're like a production line worker or something like that, like manufacturing and stuff like that, like anybody, like any machine can like make a part and like put it in. But in terms of like business, like I don't think artificial intelligence is where it's at, or could maybe ever get to a point where it could holistically replace substitute a human. Yeah,
that's an interesting thing you say, because I was watching an interview with Sam Altman, the CEO of
Did you hear about what happened to him?
Yeah.
So he got sacked, and then just this morning but very recently he got brought back in.
Yeah, that's what I saw, the interview with the Microsoft's CEO, and they're like, "Is he an employee?" And he's like, "Well, we're kind of like like working on it."
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah. I think so. The company that does ChatGPT and everything, they have 700 employees, and when Sam Altman got fired, 500 of them eventually got to a point where they said, "We're gonna quit if you don't bring him back in."
Yeah,
which is crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah,
which is crazy to think about. But yeah,
I was like, "Dang, he's a good leader then."
No, I mean, I think he's a good leader. I think the board was a little mad that he set very lofty goals, which I don't see an issue with when you're a company that's literally in the news every single day and is making some serious change.
Yeah,
like I don't get why he shouldn't have lofty goals and should go for big things.
Yeah, it's also a non-profit, I'm pretty sure. Like they were a non-profit, which was like their goal.
And then Microsoft bought them for like $10 billion.
Yeah, so like they should have known from the get. Like, they're not gonna make. I don't know. Yeah, like they should be allowed to. Yeah, do certain things.
Actually, I'm gonna back to our earlier conversation point about biggest learnings from economics. I'm gonna add in no such thing as free, and everything is for profit. No matter what.
Yeah.
There's always money involved in some way, shape, or form.
No such thing as free, Or the free, was it free loaders issue?
Yeah. Or what is the no such thing as a free lunch?
Yeah,
yeah. That's always like an acronym that like they want everybody in Wake Forest Econ to know. No such thing as free lunch is interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, you were saying about the like AI like taking jobs, things like that, which is interesting because he said that he thought it would be the other way. Like it would be production jobs and then like white collar jobs, and then art would be like last. It's looking like it's the opposite right now. Like it's looking like art is actually becoming like the first thing that's being implemented. Like white collar jobs are using it more than like production style and things like that. It is interesting that it's completely opposite of what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I like to think of it in a couple different ways. The first of which is like there's a difference between work that can be substituted, and there's a difference between work that's can be complemented, right? Like I think if you're quant finance or something like that, or if you're a financial advisor or something like that, like you can use things like ChatGPT or artificial intelligence that can analyze the markets and make conjectures on billions of data points in a matter of seconds that obviously you as a human cannot do. I think it's going to help your productivity. You're going to be able to give solutions quicker, faster, better, and stuff like that. So that's the place in which it complements, and I think in some cases it can substitute. Like, it can create, like you said, it can create art. It can like paintings and stuff like that. Like artificial intelligence can make music. Did you hear that? Did you hear it was like the Drake song or whatever.
Yeah,
the piano. There's like
it was like, Drake is actually pretty good. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was decent. Like a whole bunch of people thought it was like legit. I mean, I heard it the first time. I was like, oh, like I mean, I knew, but like it was like, oh, like this could pass. So but it is crazy. Like it can substitute in some places. It can substitute in that, and it can complement in others. I think the other way of looking at it is how it's going to affect, high skill requirement. I think the best lens to look at it is not like, is it going to take over my job or is it not going to take over my job? It's like, is it how it's going to change specific tasks within my job? And that's part of what I'm looking for. Like that's part of how I'm breaking down the problem in the thesis. I'm focusing on tasks that software engineers, complete on a specific day-to-day basis, and which of those tasks can be replaced by, machine learning or artificial intelligence versus others, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting how you look at it, like, because like if you go to ChatGPT right now and you say create like a basic for loop that iterates through an array and updates the values of those array, like ChatGPT can easily do that. And there are more advanced websites that have models that are specifically tailored for computer science related people. I think GitHub has something called Copilot, and it's literally like you just say,
heard about that.
Give me, and you can do really complex stuff like give me a minimum spanning tree using Kruskal's algorithm and stuff like that, and it'll set it all up so that you can like go through some craziness.
Yeah, Excel actually started. I don't know if they've implemented it fully yet, but they're starting to try to implement like Python into Excel and like a Copilot.
Yeah,
type of thing. And it's like pretty cool. Like that's gonna be a crazy thing.
It's very interesting.
Are you gonna be an early adopter of Neuralink?
Neuralink.
You know, Neuralink
is that
it's one of Elon Musk's companies.
Like the one with the head chip, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then like you're supposed to be fully connected and things like that, which I think is what will eventually happen. Like our phones will not become our phones. Our phones will slowly like become connected with us.
Yeah.
And we'll just have all the information, which is a crazy thing to think about, because it
crazy.
could happen in our generation, which is wild, because like then everything that like you've ever learned,
right,
everyone has access to.
Yeah.
And it's like you spent like years grinding.
Yeah.
And it's like nope. Everybody's got it now.
Yeah.
That's such a crazy concept, which
it's
I know
terrifying. Terrifying.
People will push back on.
I don't know. I mean, so like, what is this chip supposed to do? It's supposed to like.
I think the first iterations of it is supposed to help people with like neurological diseases. Like if you're like part of your brain's not fully connecting, like it's supposed to go in there and like fix everything, like all the neurons and stuff like that. And then also it's supposed to help with like physical disabilities, like if your leg doesn't work or like you're paralyzed and things like that. It's supposed to go in there and reconnect everything. So that's what I think the initial goal is. But eventually,
it ever gets to a point where like it implements higher brain function and gives you more productivity and capacity.
Probably.
You know what that makes me think of? You ever see that movie Limitless?
I've seen clips. I've never seen it. But
so yeah, the whole concept is it's this guy, right, who takes a pill. It's called like NZT or whatever, and it just makes him like, it opens more access to his brain, like gives him essentially like higher brain function or whatever, like and more productivity. It just reminds me of that, like, and how it's just gonna like if it really will increase productivity by that much, like implement higher brain function by that much, then like if you don't have it, you're just screwed.
Yeah,
like you just can't do anything. Like I don't imagine it could get to that point where it's like going to be that much. It's gonna make you that much more productive, and maybe not immediately, but I just got like, it's crazy to think about. Like people are gonna have chips in their head that are like
which we're not even, you might not even see it. Like it might just be like a little
or not. Yeah, it might just be a thing,
a small little thing you just insert. But like it's gonna be like when people first came to America, they could just grab land. Like, this is my land. Like, it's like that. It's like, and then your family is rich forever because you just happen to like be like, this is
right place, right time.
Yeah, you're just in Manhattan. You're like,
unreal.
This is my land.
Unreal.
Yeah. So it's like, it's gonna be like that, except times like a million. Like, you're gonna be so far advanced. Like, if your great grandparents would have came to America first, and they were like, this is all our land. Like, you would have had generational wealth forever.
Yeah.
But now it's like, if you're the first person to implement that and you have all the technology, you're going to understand everything, especially within the financial markets and stuff like that.
Bruh. Oh, my God. There's a whole scene where he comes as a day trader and, like, makes $12,000 in a day.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's like stuff like that. Like, if that happens, it's going to, what's it called? Like, the space between, like, the richest and the poorest person in the world is going to go crazy. Like, it's going to be huge.
Do you think the disparity, economic disparity is going to go down?
I think it'll increase at first, and then slowly decrease.
Interesting.
I think it'll be like whoever is like the first dozen people, 100 people, like 1,000 people that like implement it, and they start like they have all this ability to do everything, and then everybody like this in third world countries can't do it. It'll create like a huge disparity. Yeah. And then eventually, as third world countries get it, it'll probably bring it back down.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think I'm going to partially agree and then disagree with you. I'm going to agree that it's going to create that divide a little bit more, and I think it's going to stay there.
You think so?
I think it's going to stay there. It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's how it is.
I'm sure there'll be another technology that comes right after that.
It could be.
That makes it worse. Yeah, I'm sure.
Do you think this will be invented in our lifetime? Like, or not? Maybe not invented, but widely implemented in our lifetime.
I think if we get another Elon Musk.
Mm.
I don't know. Or some. I don't even know if he's like all that intelligent. Like I'm sure he probably is, but there has to be somebody else that's like that to that level.
To that level of
which I'm sure there probably are, but they're probably in like academia and they probably just want to do research and like study and like not.
You ever wonder what would happen if like some genius professor at some like college like went to do something practically? Like, could they change the world? Like, because I feel like professors are like some of the smartest people. Like, we widely regard them as that, like in society, right? They're some of the smartest people out there. Yeah. Because they spend their whole life, delving into one specific topic. Yeah. And I just like to think like what would happen if like somebody stuck them in a real world context? Like, would they either conquer the world or would they like just like get shuffled into some some corner of some office and just be like irrelevant?
That is I don't know. Yeah, because I always think about like Nikola Tesla and like Thomas Edison, people like that, Albert Einstein. Like, how did they not get stuck into like a little? Yeah. Like, there probably is like some guy that's just like working at like, I don't know, Ernst and Young, and like super smart and would like help. Because you know about the guy that has apparently the highest IQ or something like that.
He's got some like dead end desk job. Or
he's a bouncer. Right? Yeah. Or he was a bouncer.
Oh, interesting.
That's what there was a guy they found in Britain, I think, or somewhere in Europe that he had like an amazing IQ, but he's just like a bouncer. He just like has a great memory, like everything like that. But he's just like, I just want to be a bouncer. He's like a big dude. So it's like, I'm sure there's people out there that are like super smart and they can like help us evolve. And
it's gotta be
get to Mars by now, but they just don't want to do it.
Bouncer, be like, yo, get us there, brother.
Yeah. Help out. Well, the thing is, like, you can be smart, but you have to learn all of that stuff, which would still take.
I think it's the classic problem of there are people who are naturally smart and there are people who work hard. Or sorry, it's three. People who are naturally smart, people who work hard, and people who have access to opportunities. I think those are like the three components to any level of success or productivity in like just in life. I think, I would say the work ethic. Well, I'm gonna be honest. I think opportunities matter the most. Like if you're like, obviously if you're somebody like born in the U.S. or like born in the middle of New York City and like everybody who works at every like company there, or like you just have access to everything in the world, like you're gonna have a better shot than somebody who's born in like a third world country or something.
Yeah, Sri Lanka or something.
Yeah,
like
bad news. Yeah. So I think there's that, and then I would say it's hard work. It's sort of work ethic. Like that matters second most, and then I would put natural intelligence or IQ at the bottom.
I think natural intelligence might be more than the hard work, just because if me and you are digging a hole, and let's say you spend your whole life digging that hole, and I spend my whole life digging that hole, your hole has nothing, and I knew that there was a diamond at this hole, who
I guess that's fair,
who technically had more success, even though you dug a bigger hole, you spend your whole life doing it.
That's fair.
That's also the luck thing, the opportunity thing.
That's a little bit of the opportunity. But it's just it's a weird dynamic to think about. Yeah. One question I did want to ask you that's a little off topic from this and more about the technologies thing. What technology scares you the most, or what perspective technology scares you the most?
Well, I think like the whole AI thing. I think the fact that, but it doesn't really scare me. Like, I've thought about this. Yeah. Like, I think we will evolve. Like, I'm like a big proponent of like this is just like what happens.
It's what happens.
Like, I have a very dumbed down idea of like, let's say this is what I tell guys all the time. Like, if you ask a girl out and she tells you no, she's basically telling you that your genetics aren't good enough to go to the next generation. That's how I think. She's basically saying like, your genetics aren't good enough for me. So like,
just imagine like somebody going through their like some like the ancestors like going through their whole lives to like preserve the DNA and just all of it coming down to some girl being like, nah, you ugly.
Yeah, it's like, I don't really see the hype. Tough. It's like, yeah. Shoot. So like, I think of stuff like that. Like, I'm very non-biased because I also don't think it will affect me. Yeah, because I probably will be gone by the time like stuff like that happens. But I do think I'm more excited to see like what happens. Like, if we could become like some crazy, I don't know, like type of one organism, because like we all like eventually I think if we all have like we're connected, like through technology, like there won't be more wars. Like there won't be misunderstanding. Like if everyone speaks the same language, that'll end a lot of the conflict. Bruh. If everybody can understand like what they're thinking, because a lot of people, like the issue is a lot of people like have the same thought maybe, or they have similar thoughts, but when it comes out, it's not coming out how it should come out. Right. And that leads to conflict. So hopefully that could help. And then I think, but the scariest technology is definitely the nuclear bomb. If I had to say something, it's probably the nuclear bomb, because that is just us. We could easily just blow ourselves up.
Did you see Oppenheimer?
Yeah.
Did you like it? Yeah, I did. I loved it.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I liked it was long. It was so long.
Yeah.
But I did like I appreciated like the cinematography that he did with like the black and white.
Beautiful.
And then like the color and stuff
to
like
show,
that.
What was it? He did it on like to show eras of like turmoil or stress for him versus the ones that are like.
I think it was that, and then also when it wasn't his perspective.
Yes. Right.
So it was a great movie, but that is scary to think about. Like we've like when he was like, we started like a chain reaction that could never end. Yeah. So
no, it's crazy.
That's the scariest one. What do you say? What do you think is the scariest?
I think right now, for our lifetime, quantum computing. And that's because the idea behind a quantum computer is that, like, the specific scientifics of it are a little complex, but the basic end result is that you'll be able to solve problems at an exponentially, like astronomically faster rate than you would for another. So think about like the basic password issue, right? If you're trying to break into somebody's bank account, they have a password, right? So you can try a whole bunch of different things. And that's what a lot of computers, like basic, malware programs do, is they try a whole bunch of different combinations.
I was going to say, I've heard, what's the term for that? It's like when you're practicing like different combos like the whole time. There's like a term for it.
There is a term for it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm blanking on it. But yeah, like that's how like basic malware programs work. So you like do that, and you do it a certain number of times, and you start to learn which works and which doesn't over time. But you can try a certain amount of combinations in a certain amount of time. The thing with quantum computing is you can try the same number of computations or combinations in a matter of seconds. And I think what happens is, and this is part of what I want to look at for my comp sci thesis, is if China or something like that, who like there's a lot of information out there about how much they've been developing their whole quantum computing game. If they get access to that, then they can get all sorts of information to all of our stuff and all our bank accounts. What is it called?
Brute force.
Brute force. Yes,
that's
a brute force implementation. Yeah. So yeah, that's what scares me the most, because if China gets information on all our bank accounts and all of our everything, not that they probably don't have all our information already.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have TikTok, you're probably.
Dude, I watched a crazy YouTube video the other day about how it compares the differences between TikTok in China and TikTok in the US. Like in the US, it's all like cat videos and like, like thirst traps and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is.
And then like in China, it's like how to become an astronaut, how to become a software engineer, how to do this. Like,
well, he went to I don't know if it was the CEO of TikTok or
he came here
and they had an issue with that,
Congress or something like that.
Yeah, and so they implemented. I'm not sure if that's why they implemented it, but right after that they did implement STEM on TikTok.
Okay.
So now, I mean, I don't have TikTok right now. I deleted it because I was like, it's too addicting right now.
Yeah.
But there's like a For You page, a follower, or like For You followers are following, and then a STEM page. So you can go to the STEM page, and it'll only give you stuff that's STEM related.
Yeah.
But it's awful when I looked at it, because it's literally just like an old person like trying to do a TikTok, and it's like not,
I'm like 100% convinced it's like trying to dumb down the U.S. population.
Oh yeah,
just so that they can get the upper hand.
They're great at like cyber. I don't even know what it's called.
Manipulating people,
like cyber warfare.
Yeah.
They're great at them. Russia. The Russia bots and everything.
Dude,
like
Russia's crazy. I listened to this one podcast called Hack Me If You Can. It's about this guy who like pulled off one of the biggest, cyber attacks in the U.S. Stole like $300 million.
Oh my god!
And like came back. Like obviously the U.S. got him. Dude, they got him because he was like in Amsterdam, like smoking weed, and he took a selfie somewhere, and they were like, "Get him!" So like, crazy.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. But like he told this whole story about how in Russia, like a lot of people just are like being a hacker or whatever, like trying to steal money or like via malware or anything like that. kind of like a second nature type of job there. Like people are just like naturally grow into it, and it's not an issue. It's not an issue if you like keep it, obviously, like, keep a little bit of a low profile, but the amount of indoctrination that they bring that into in Russia is like crazy to think about. And that's like wild. What he talked about there was terrifying to hear.
Because you'll never hear that here. I've never heard somebody be like, yeah, I've been hacking this stuff. I've met one person that I know that has told me that they went into the dark web, and I was like,
I don't even want to think about that stuff.
I was like, I don't even know how you do that, but like, cool, good for you, but that's crazy because I'm not.
Have you seen the show? I think it's like Mr. Robot or something like that. It's with the guy.
I know what you're talking about. I have not seen it.
I want to see it so bad because I think it's like, not only is it like masterfully filmed and stuff like that, so that's why it would intrigue me, but it's also about this like hacker guy who's like really insanely smart and like can't connect to the world but can see it through the lens of, like the dark web and like all sorts of systems and stuff like that. So I don't know. That's cool. I'm curious to see it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been like 2 hours, so
this was great.
We'll cut it short. First, just want to appreciate you coming on the podcast. You're my third guest, so
thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, I definitely have. I have plenty. I had like a lot of questions that like, so definitely I'll get you back on here so I can ask some more type of questions. But I definitely appreciate you.
Of course, dude.
Coming
thanks
on
for having
here.
me.
I don't know. Awesome. I don't know if you want to plug anything. Like, I'll just put your Instagram in the.
You can put my Instagram in there, I guess. I don't have anything to plug.
I don't know. Yeah. So the first guy was a real estate agent, so I wanted to give him some spotlight.
Give him some creds.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah. All right. Cool. Well, appreciate it. And
thanks, man.
See you, everybody.